Training camp is getting ready to kick off for the San Francisco 49ers very, very shortly. And this is going to be the beginning of the 2026 campaign to see if they can get back to the playoffs, go far to the playoffs, and make the Super Bowl. But it's really one of the more intriguing parts about training camp is looking to see how the rookies are doing. And there's no one that's going to be under a greater microscope, a larger lens on that microscope than rookie wide receiver Ole Miss, De'Zhaun Stribling. He was one of very polarizing draft picks selected by the 49ers by taking him in the second round, where it seemed like you probably could have got him 20, 30 spots lower. However, this offseason has been a lot of propping up from Stribling through the media. Most recently, it was reported, I believe it was Adam Schefter, that came out and said the Los Angeles Rams had De'Zhaun Stribling as their best receiver on the board. There's a lot to unpack on that, and then as well as expecting of what Stribling's role would be to make it a successful rookie season for him. But let's just unpack that. Let's unpack the propping up, the Rams having him as the best wide receiver, which to me is kind of crazy, and also at the same time can't take seriously. I'm not going to take seriously what the Rams said when they took Ty freaking Simpson, number 13 overall. Are you kidding me? Like, you guys are the last ones I want to hear about, like, oh, yeah, they were one of the few teams who had them the best. Like, sit down, stay out. Like, you revoked any sort of competency or sense by taking Ty Simpson. And you could say we drafted him for the future. We didn't. I really don't care what their logic or excuse is. You know, Ty Simpson, no, that you guys drafted him 13. You probably could have gotten Stribling and then Ty Simpson, and he still would have been whatever. It's ridiculous. But I do want to point out who the source was. The speaker, reporter Adam Schefter. That's 1,000% leaked by the 49ers. Adam Schefter is the insider, the lead guy in the NFL world for the 49ers because he's been with cahoots for the Shanahan since Mike years and years ago. So guess who he's latched on to now? Kyle Shanahan. Why do you think Ian Rappaport and other insiders, Mike Garafolo, Tom Pelissero, don't really have enough juice to actually put out there to stir some content, to stir these discussions like I'm having now about the 49ers? Because Adam Schefter gets everything first. You know, even going back to the Trey Lance days, going to over a year ago when there's reports of saying, oh, the Niners hate the contract extension they gave to Brandon Ayuk. That was from Adam Schefter. You know, so this is where they're hearing it from. The Niners, maybe not necessarily it's directly from Kyle Shanahan, but it's the Niners. He's very close to them than anyone else. So it's kind of funny that the 49ers have done this to push this by leaking to Schefter, like, oh, hey, this is what's hearing from. That's essentially what I'm gathering from it, that they're the ones who pushed it. And it's something that's happened a month or two earlier before this, where I even wrote on 49ers NSI, check it out, that the 49ers are starting to look more validated or justified for why they drafted Stribling, because you got all these unnamed sources, reports saying, hey, like, he was actually good, better. If he didn't take him then, someone would have took him 10 spots later, which is actually not even a reach at that point, considering you weren't picking until 20 more spots after that, right? If he was picked 10 spots from where the 49ers originally took Stribling in the second round. They're doing a lot of this trying to make themselves look like, hey, it wasn't a bad pick, guys. Almost like they're very insecure by their image. You know, and Kyle Shanahan, a few days after the 49ers, the NFL draft was done, Kyle Shanahan appeared on with who? Who did he appear on with? Rich Eisen? He appeared on with someone and was like, yeah, like, we did our due diligence. He was actually going to take in this and that. Like, they did, like, PR damage control to this pick. Almost like they're very self-conscious and like, oh, good, why are you guys bullying us? Why are you taking this way? When, especially after, like, John Lynch and even Shanahan, you know, piggybacked it to a degree during those post-draft press conferences, that the only consensus they care about is the consensus in the building. But my thing is, like, if that's true, why are you going on this, like, PR campaign to try to make you guys look like you're smart? But that's the reality, is that the 49ers, especially Shanahan, really loves and cares about their image, their looks, their perspective from the outside facility. As much as they say and act like they don't care, they do. They do. Don't believe me? The most recent one, at least the one on top of my head, Kyle Shanahan didn't want to cut Jake Moody too soon, even though it was very justified and valid, because he didn't want to cut him and look like fools. Like, oh, great, we cut a third-round kicker, and guess what? Now he's going on to another team, and he does well. Go look up the transcript and pull up the video. He's literally saying that, like, I was just fearful of him, of what he could become if we cut him. If all of a sudden he starts nailing, and he's gonna be like, I knew it. We should have held on to him, which is kind of ridiculous because a change of scenery for kickers is everything. So that necessarily wouldn't have meant that just because you kept him longer, he would have found the fountain of youth, the fountain of luck, a four-leaf clover that suddenly makes his kicks go from outside the upright to inside, you know? So I just think this is hilarious that they're going on this tangent. It's actually a tangent. It's tangent a little strong. They've done a couple things this offseason to really push through reports, through leaks, through sources. Hey, like, this is actually not a bad pick. And they care so much about it. It was kind of funny to me. It's just funny. But regardless of what it looks like and what they see, what anyone says, all that's going to matter is how he performs, right? Does he justify that value? Does he become like a solid player over time? Because it's not going to be this year. You know, there's no way he's going to be this featured amazing weapon in year one. Absolutely not. Which I did see recently that CBS Sports, a writer CBS Sports, Jordan De'Zhaun, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, wrote that he had De'Zhaun Stribling as a sleeper to be the offensive rookie of the year, and much respect to him. I think that's baloney. I think that's insane. And that ties into like my expectations of him, of what you can expect from Stribling this year is there's no way in hell he's going to be the NFL offensive rookie of the year. There's no chance, because he's not going to be featured in any game. And if he does, it'll probably be stretches in a game where he does become one. Maybe he has like a game or two, maybe even 3 where his stats look amazing. But outside of that, I wouldn't hold my breath on it. The 49ers are not going to rely on Stribling that much this year. They just want him to be a key role player, to come in clutch. So imagine him getting like around 30 catches, 300 plus yards, and 3 touchdowns, maybe even 5. With a good portion of his catches coming on critical downs, like third down, red zone, chain moving, something, right? Like, he's not going to get featured heavily. He's not going to be featured heavily in an offense that has Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, eventually George Kittle, and a platoon of other veteran pieces that you can shuffle in and out before he really becomes someone that's actually, hey, we're going to make you a focal point of this game, or several drives throughout the game. Like, there's no way. At least not consistently outside of maybe like 2 to 3 games. I can see that happening with Stribling, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a little hard. The defenses are doing well against the 49ers' 2 best players. Let's see where they go elsewhere with the lesser matchup. So I would not expect Stribling to have a balled out year in terms of numbers, in terms of being this monster. There's no way. Plus, I don't even think he has the talent to be that. But he does have the talent to immediately be someone that is fairly impactful as a key role player with those catches, and also his blocking, right? That was pretty much one of his top draws that made the 49ers draft him in the first place. He's the Juwan Jennings replacement, essentially. You know, he's limited route tree because Ole Miss didn't run him that much, so it was a little unclear as to what he can actually do. You know, does he have the hips for it? Does he have the feet quickness to do that? I know he's very fast and has yak ability, so look for the 49ers to obviously use him in that role. And that's probably where he'll generate a lot of yards. I can even see his yards being almost 500 if he ends up breaking a home run play or 2. So he will give them a chance to give that home run play that they were missing, almost like Deebo Samuel back in the day, right? Except you got a bigger blocker, a better blocker. And in terms of versatility and use in the formation, you know, he can be a slide. You can throw him outside. You can line him up in line so he can be that crack blocker, help you wedge in with George Kittle or whoever at tight end, to make sure those outside runs are sealed for McCaffrey to get running lanes, because ultimately that was a big, huge part in why McCaffrey in the running game in general for the 49ers last year was putrid. It was very ineffective. And maybe McCaffrey's lost a step or 2. I don't really buy into it that much last year. This year he probably will, right? It's another year on his body after the workload he had. My goodness. Talk about carrying a team. But that's where I can see where he's really going to make his biggest impact. I could even see him getting more snaps and Ricky Pearsall in a game, but less routes ran. You know, and at that point, you're Kyle Shanahan. You got to make sure you're not getting too predictable, because if you see Stribling out there, it's most likely going to be a run. So that's something that he's going to have to figure out, and I'm sure it won't be too much of a problem for him, because he is very, very intelligent and utilizing his players in that way and making defenses stay off balance with that pre-snap masking of the formation of a play. So Stribling's expectations pretty high on him pressure-wise, but I don't think I understand the 49ers took him, and it is somewhat of a reach, whether you agree with it or not. Ultimately, as long as he does become a key role player, I wouldn't expect him to be that baller. There's no way he has an offensive rookie of the year season. The only way that would happen is there would have to be several injuries to key players, McCaffrey, Kittle, and Evans, for him to step up and be generating, demanding, needing that volume, because it was out of necessity and he lived up to it, and turns out he's actually pretty swift. But considering the offense is in and the other competition around the league, you know, is he going to be? I would be stunned, even with the injuries occurring, which would, you know, it's not actually far-fetched that happens, considering the age and the injury-prone history that a bunch of these skilled players have on the 49ers. So Stribling, you know, I think he'll be decent this year. You know, all of a sudden draft status doesn't matter. What the 49ers did doesn't matter. And I think this year will be a solid year for him. Maybe it won't be like, hey, he was worth that 33rd pick, right, or whatever, that early in the second round. But hey, he did enough. He made impactful plays, and it was fine. Now let's see where he takes it in year 2, right? Especially if, my goodness, if Ricky Pearsall gets injured, which more likely than not is going to happen. But offensive rookie of the year Stribling, absolutely not. It's funny that the 49ers are propping him up this way to the media, because all that's going to matter is how he looks like starting in training camp and the preseason, so that way it can be the way for him to really polish up his skills to be ready for the regular season and validate the 49ers for drafting him in the first place.